What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be ranking the first 5 episodes of The Flash Season 9 from worst to best. So yeah, guys, now that the Red Death storyline has ended, I figured we might as well rank each episode from that storyline. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. So coming in at number 5, I have Season 9, Episode 2. This one, it was bad, alright? I'm just gonna be honest, it was not very good. It was very Keone focused, or Caitlin, that storyline focused. And in my opinion, that character is completely unnecessary. I mean, I don't actually hate the Keone character. It's just the fact that they're doing it in the final season of The Flash when Caitlin really should be on the show the entire season. I mean, I've said this before, maybe a Keone storyline would work in like The Flash Season 5 or something like that. But Season 9 just makes zero sense. It's just totally unnecessary. Other things in this episode, we had the Fiddler, who's not that good of a villain. Really wasn't a huge fan of her. Hartley Rathaway, this was his first episode of the season, and I mean, nothing really stands out about that. And another thing in this episode, Barry didn't really use his speed. It just wasn't the best episode for, the Flash. It felt like a big filler episode. And yeah, in addition to that, there's of course still the stupid Allegra and Chester stuff going on. Nobody cares about that. They should just never show that ever. And then the Red Death only appeared in like one cliffhanger scene. So yeah, this episode wasn't very good at all. I'm going to give it like a 5 out of 10. So now coming in at number 4, I have Season 9, Episode 1, and this was the episode with, obviously it was the season premiere. It had the time loop stuff with Barry and Iris, and I actually really liked how they centered the episode, mostly around Barry and Iris and, the future. I really liked that aspect of it. Captain Boomerang was, he was pretty cool, but, nothing really stood out about this episode. I mean, there was still the Allegra and Chester stuff in there, which I will say a lot of times that I just hate so much. But yeah, they didn't really focus on that a lot this episode, and like I said, this episode, nothing really stood out exactly, which is why it's not ranked higher, but there wasn't anything like completely terrible about this episode. So yeah, I'd give this like a 6.5 out of 10. So coming in at number 3, I have Season 9, Episode 3, and I actually really enjoyed a lot of this episode, especially like the whole team up between Barry and all these former rogues. It was actually a lot more funny and more entertaining than I thought it would be. So yeah, that was definitely a positive of the episode. We also got some cool shots of the Red Death and got to see Barry's actual, first interaction with her when she actually kind of looked a little bit threatening. Obviously, that's just because she had the mask on. Without the mask on, she's absolutely awful. We'll get more into that later in the ranking. But yeah, that part of the episode was, it was all right. And I actually really enjoyed what they were doing with Mark's character in this episode too, turning him more, into more of a villain, which is who I always thought he should be. I thought he was always going to be like a, sort of like another Captain Cold type of character, which I think would have worked out way better for him on the show. But yeah, once again, I mean, it's just nothing really stands out that much. So yeah, this episode definitely better than episodes 2 and 1, but I'm just going to give it a 7 out of 10 here. So now coming in at number 2, I have Season 9, Episode 5. I know what you guys are thinking. Some of you may have really not liked this finale of the Red Death storyline. I actually liked a very good majority of it, especially when Red Death has her mask on. I actually think she's a very cool villain. I actually really enjoy Red Death with the mask on, but without it, she's just so cringe and it's so painful to watch. So yeah, that's, I thought the parts where she had her mask on, I thought she was really cool. So that's why, this episode might be ranked a little bit higher. Grodd's return was really cool to see. So I'm glad they've got one more scene with him for, just to end off the show. And we actually had an actual speedster battle in this episode, which was extremely refreshing. And a lot of you guys have mixed opinions about like the Speed Force shield Barry made, or like the red lightning rope that the Red Death made. I mean, I don't exactly hate it. I mean, I know a lot of you guys have different opinions on it, but I thought I'd at least mention that. But there's a couple of problems I still have with this episode, such as Batwoman literally showing up out of nowhere with no explanation at all to how she got there, which makes no sense. That's kind of ridiculous. And they also never confirmed what timeline exactly Red Death is from. They could still, do that later in the season, I guess, if they want to connect it to anything. But not revealing it in this episode was really just disappointing. And then the last thing I really wasn't a fan of in this episode, or the last couple of things, I should say, Joe leaving Central City is completely unnecessary. I know he's not going to be a regular anymore, but he doesn't have to literally leave Central City. They literally could just say that he's like visiting Wally or something like that in the episode episodes that he's not going to be in. It's totally ridiculous that they're making him leave Central City. That doesn't make any sense. And then the fact that Iris's pregnancy was announced by Khione is ridiculous. That is so dumb. I mean, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Khione's getting powers. That's what we realize in that scene. But at the same time, just let her deal with all that in episode 6, which is already an episode all focused on her. Why not just let Barry and Iris announce it themselves? So, yeah, that was kind of annoying right there. But nonetheless, I still thought there was a lot of good things in this episode. So, yeah, with all that said, I would give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. And that obviously means at number 1 is Season 9, Episode 4. And the reason it's up this high at number 1 is that this was the most intense episode by far. You know, the power was out. There was like a lot of, you know, suspense stuff, you know, with a stranger knocking at Iris's door. And obviously that ended up being the Red Death. I thought that was a pretty interesting way to go about things. And, you know, Red Death, besides, you know, all that, did have her mask on a lot of the episode, of course, until the end where she got a little bit cringe. But yeah, also, we did get a teaser in regard to what, you know, timeline Red Death was from, and, you know, I thought we would, you know, get the answer to what timeline she was from in episode 5, but, you know, that didn't pan out how we wanted it to. But even so, it was still cool to get that teaser in episode 4. And of course, Barry running on the cosmic treadmill was so cool to see. It was absolutely awesome. So yeah, number 1 for me at least is Season 9, Episode 4. Of course, there were still a lot of things that, you know, I didn't like about the episode. But yeah, I think out of what we got, I think Season 9, Episode 4 is the best one. And yeah, with all that said, I would give Season 9, Episode 4 an 8 out of 10. So yeah, guys, that is my ranking. Make sure you comment what you think. And yeah, for those of you guys wondering if I'm going to make a trailer breakdown for episode 6, I'm not. The episode does not look very interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be some season 4 references, you know, with the season 4 Hazard character returning. But overall, that episode looks pretty bad. But they did recently come out with the season 9 episode 7 synopsis, which I will break down right now. So the synopsis reads, Iris is visited by Nia Nal as she needs Iris's help. When Iris and Nia fall into a fever dream and explore different possibilities for their lives, Barry, Chester, Allegra, and Cecile desperately try to save them. Meanwhile, Mark entertains Khione, but they have very different ideas of what is fun, leaving Khione to feel that Mark is trying to make her something she is not. So yeah, the last part of that with Mark and Khione, I don't really care about any of that. I mean, I just wish it was Caitlin instead, because that would be way better. So yeah, that part probably not going to be very interesting. But Iris and Nia falling into a fever dream. By the way, Nia, of course, from Supergirl. This is the episode she's going to be appearing in. But yeah, her and Iris falling into a fever dream and exploring different possibilities for their lives. That's going to be, I guess that's going to be pretty interesting. There's not much you can theorize about that. But yeah, I think that this episode could be, you know, the description for it doesn't look amazing, but I think it could be still pretty good. It could be like an underrated episode. So I guess we'll just have to find out. But anyways, I'd say that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this video down below, as well as your own ranking of your Flash Season 9 episodes ranked so far. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.